Good evening, wanderers of shadow and seekers of signal. You've found your way to Dove and Serpent Radio, broadcasting from deep within the tangled canopy of a forest that no map dares name. A place not marked by coordinates, but by dreams. Those strange paths we walk in the dark without knowing where they end. I'll be your guide for this nocturnal transmission, and wherever you are, in bed with headphones, driving down an empty road, or staring out a cabin window into midnight fog, I'm glad you're here. The voice you're hearing tonight doesn't echo from a studio. No on-air light, no engineers behind the glass, just a single lamp, a tape machine humming, and an open window where the forest sighs its secret. They say that when the world sleeps, the trees begin to speak, not in words, but in groans and sighs, in creaks and rustling, language older than thought. I've learned to listen. Maybe that's what this is, not a radio show, but an invitation to slow down, to remember, to listen to the things you've forgotten how to hear. We spend so much time trying to feel awake. Coffee, screen light, noise, momentum. But here, tonight, I want you to dream while conscious. Let the stillness come. Let the forest rise around you. Its limbs curl through memory and myth. The mist thickens. And somewhere within it, a story is waiting. Tonight's episode is Stitched from Shadow. We'll follow a stranger with no name who asks dangerous questions. We'll meet the devil, not with pitchfork and fire, but as a figure who dares you to look in the mirror. Later, we'll step into Saturn's orbit, the great ringed watchman of time and silence. We'll meditate among the trees, where roots tangle with forgotten truths. And we'll read letters from dreamers who've seen things that don't fit into daylight. The forest is a place of transformation. In the old stories, travelers entered it to be tested, to lose their way, to become someone else. And so if you've tuned in tonight, maybe some part of you is already seeking transformation. Maybe you've been wandering for some time. Maybe you've heard your own name whispered in the leaves. Wherever you are, whoever you are, you're not alone. This signal isn't strong, but it's clear. And here in the Blackwood hours, we begin not with answers, but with questions. What are you afraid to know? What are you ready to remember? So light a candle, breathe in slow. Close your eyes for a moment if you can. Imagine the trees leaning in to listen. And say to no one in particular, I'm ready. This is Dove and Serpent Radio, and you are exactly where you're supposed to be. If you've stayed with us past the first threshold, you've already begun to leave the known world behind. We now enter our first tale, a tale best listened to with the lights low and the mind half open. Some stories wait buried for years, like seeds in the forest floor, until one strange night they sprout. This one is called The Stranger in the Dust. I was driving home late one night, late enough that time didn't feel real, the kind of hour where headlights slice through fog like blades, and the forest seems to lean closer with every mile. No music, just the hum of the engine and the occasional tick of the cooling dash. Somewhere between the miles, I noticed a shape on the road ahead. Not standing in the middle of it, no, but near the edge, just beyond the reach of the high beams. A figure, motionless. I slowed, rolled the window down an inch. The air smelled of moss and burnt cedar. I could hear crickets, then nothing. The forest went quiet all at once, like a theater before the curtain rises. The figure stepped forward. A man, or something that looked like one, cloaked in an old black coat, the kind that looked sewn from ash. His face was obscured by the rim of a wide hat, but he held something out toward me. A matchbook. "You've come far," he said, "but not as far as you think." I didn't respond. I couldn't. My body wasn't mine for a moment. I just stared, watching the flame tremble in his hand. It didn't cast a light like a normal flame. It was dim, but deep, like it burned inward instead of out. "You are missing something," he said. "What?" I finally asked. "Your reflection," he said. "You left it behind at that diner, sitting in the corner booth, sipping bad coffee and wondering why the waitress looked like your dead grandmother." He smiled, I think. "If you want it back," he said, "you'll have to forget your name for a while." I blinked. The flame went out. The forest was loud again. The stranger was gone. I drove the rest of the way home with the window down, listening to the wind whisper questions I still don't know how to answer. Some say that the forest tests those who enter it. Others say the forest doesn't test, it reveals. What would you do if your reflection went missing? What part of yourself have you left behind, sipping coffee in some forgotten corner of your life? We move now from mythic shadow to symbolic fire. A glance into the tarot for this week's message. You'll want to sit with this one. It's the devil. There's a moment just before the forest devours the road behind you, when the light begins to lie. That's when the devil shows up, not to tempt, not to punish, but to reveal. Let's draw back the curtain now and gaze at the 15th key of the tarot. The Devil card. 15. Often misunderstood, often feared, but always, always necessary. On the surface, it's a horned beast, enthroned in fire, chains draped around two cowering figures, a parody of divinity, a force of control. But look closer. The chains are loose. The fire does not burn. The devil does not move. He does not bind you. He simply reveals the binding already present. In the tarot, the devil is not evil. He is ego unexamined, desire unconscious, the false freedom that looks like pleasure but feels like prison. He rules Capricorn, the sign of ambition, material mastery, and the illusion that we are only our image. He's the part of you that whispers, don't change, don't question, don't look behind the curtain. But the secret, the devil is the curtain, and if you look straight into his eyes, the illusion ends. So when this card appears, ask yourself, what am I avoiding? What shadow do I serve? What chain do I polish rather than unlock? Liberation begins with discomfort. We are not free when we ignore the devil. We are free when we name him. And sometimes that devil looks a lot like us. The devil leaves quietly when seen clearly, but he often lingers in mirrors, in midnight urges, in the voice that tells you you're not ready. Let's give that voice a place to echo. Now, we descend into the dream space. The forest listens, and sometimes it answers. Tonight, I've opened the old mail satchel, stitched from dream skin and moth thread, and found a few new letters. These aren't fiction, not entirely. They come from listeners like you, those who've seen strange images in their sleep, or just before waking. Dreams are more than sparks in the brain. They are portals. Let's open one now. Dream Letter 1, The Mirror Tree. Dear Paul, last night I dreamed of a tree made of mirrors. I stood alone in a glade where the moonlight didn't touch. Each leaf was a shard of reflection. But when I looked into them, I didn't see myself. I saw people I've lost. My mother was brushing her hair. My brother was crying. My grandfather stood with his back to me. Then one leaf began to crack. A fracture ran across the whole tree. And suddenly every face looked up and looked directly at me. I woke with my hands shaking. My window was open, though I hadn't opened it. From VA in New Hampshire. A beautiful, haunting image. Trees in dreams often represent memory. The mirror tree, perhaps, is a forest's attempt to make you remember what you've been avoiding. Maybe the fracture was not damage, but invitation. Dream Letter 2, The Clock That Wasn't. Dear Dove and Serpent, I dream of the same hallway over and over. Stone walls, flickering candles, a red carpet stretching forward forever. There's always a grandfather clock at the end of the hall, but its hands move backward, and the chimes don't ring, they whisper. Last night, the clock spoke. It said, "You left her behind. Go back and wake her." I don't know who her is. I live alone. From RM in Oregon. Time is a symbol of ego, and when it runs backward, we are often being asked to return to a moment long buried. Not literally, spiritually. Maybe she is you. Dream Letter 3, The Lantern-Eyed Stranger. Paul, I never dream. At least, I never remember. But a few nights ago, I had a dream so vivid, I couldn't stop shaking when I woke. A man with eyes like lanterns stood outside my window. His coat was too big. He didn't move, but I knew he wanted me to see something. On the glass, written in breath, was the word, remember. I live on the second floor. From MS in Ontario. When dreams arrive unbidden after long silence, pay attention. The forest has ways of knocking on doors that don't exist. Remember, it said. What a command. What a gift. Thank you to the listeners brave enough to share their dreams. If you have a dream you can't forget, write to us. We read every whisper. And coming up, a story deeper, darker, and older. A tale of sacrifice, soil, and something ancient that still breathes beneath the roots. Story Chamber 2 is next. The Hungry God Beneath the Hill. Don't go far. You've heard the saying, I'm sure, there are places where the land remembers. Well, what happens when it not only remembers, but refuses to forget? Tonight's second tale comes from a northern village, long since reclaimed by moss and bone. They don't speak of the hill anymore. They simply call it the place beneath. It was Elowen who told me the story. She was the last person still living in the village of Corvin Hollow, a cluster of 3 houses and a broken church, cradled in the valley beneath a lichen-covered hill. I had come as a researcher, mapping old pilgrimage paths, gathering local myths, but I found far more than I came for. There were once 50 families here, she said, pouring tea the color of rust. They're all bones now, or ash. I asked her about the hill casually, like it didn't hum every time the wind shifted. She didn't answer, just stared into her cup like the answer was steeping there. Finally, she said, "It's not a hill, it's a lid." She told me the story in pieces, like a puzzle meant to be misplaced. Long ago, before the church, before even the great stones at the river's edge, the villagers had a pact. Once every 9 years at the summer solstice, they would bring offerings to the summit of the hill. Not gold, not animals. Names. They would whisper the names of their most fearful thoughts, doubts, betrayals, old ghosts. And in return, the god beneath would keep the valley fertile. But one year, no one spoke. They held their tongues, thinking themselves wiser than their ancestors. That year, the river dried. The crops burned from the inside. People disappeared. And the hill cracked. "What happened?" I asked. Elowen only said, "It's hungry now. Always hungry." That night I stayed in the village's old inn. I was the only guest. Around midnight I heard a sound I can only describe as breathing. Not from within the building, but from beneath it. Slow, deep, rhythmic. The walls vibrated. My teeth ached. I dreamt of roots made from fingers curling upward through the floor, of a mouth wide as the hill, opening in silence. When I woke, the sheets were soaked with moss. I ran. I never published my findings, but I did receive a package from Elwyn 5 years later. No return address. Inside, a small vial of dirt, a single withered apple, and a note written in faded ink. Next year is the 9th. Not all gods wear crowns. Some wear roots. Some do not want worship, only memory. Be careful what you leave unspoken. Up next, we shift into the contemplative, with a meditation designed to quiet the inner noise and to listen for what stirs below. The forest is a temple older than thought, and now we enter it, not with feet, but with breath. This is not a guided meditation. It is a shared listening. Let us begin. Close your eyes. Take a breath in, not from the lungs, but from the base of your spine. Breathe down into the earth. Feel the soil, soft and cool, welcoming your presence. You are not outside the forest. You are beneath it, beneath the moss, beneath the roots. There is space here, a cavern, a sacred hollow. Let your breath become slower and slower still. In this place, the trees above you are no longer trees. They are memory. Each ring in their trunk is a season you've forgotten, but the roots remember. Now, in the dark before you, something begins to take shape. A figure. It does not threaten you. It only waits. You recognize it. It is the part of you that has never spoken. The part that watches. When you lie to yourself. The part that dreams when you pretend to be awake. Do not name it. Do not flee. Just sit with it. Let it be here. Two shadows beneath the forest floor, breathing together, listening together, waiting for the thaw. When you are ready, you may return. The shadow is not your enemy. The root is not the past. It is the depth. You may carry this quiet with you or leave it here, under the hill, with the others. Our ritual continues. The forest holds many secrets, but none more sacred than the fire it hides in its heart. Beneath bark and stone, behind dream and root, burns a hidden flame. And now we invoke it, not to destroy, but to illuminate. Stand if you can. Place your left hand over your heart. Close your eyes. Breathe in for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Breathe out for 4. And hold. Again. Let the rhythm of breath become the rhythm of flame. Imagine it now. A fire kindling behind your sternum. Soft, ancient, yours. With each breath, it grows brighter. It is not violent. It is not wild. It does not devour. It reveals. Repeat to yourself, I carry the flame. I do not burn, I shine. I do not flee, I remain. Now raise your right hand slightly. Imagine sending that flame outward into the world. Through your voice, through your eyes, through your listening. One last breath. In and out. The ritual ends, but the flame remains. You've walked the path, you've sat in silence, and summoned the light. There's just one last echo to hear, and it comes from the stars. Before we say goodnight, let's lift our gaze one final time to the Star Father who lords over discipline, depth, and destiny. Tonight, we speak of Saturn. Saturn, the 6th planet from the Sun, ringed and slow, patient and stern. In ancient Rome, he was called Saturnus, the god of harvests and golden ages, and of their end. He governs the structures we build and the price we pay for permanence. In astrology, Saturn is the teacher who doesn't grade on a curve. He asks, what are you building that will last beyond you? Not the fleeting flash of youth, not the plastic comforts, but stone, vow, pattern. Saturn doesn't rush. He takes 29 years to return to where he began. The Saturn return is a rite of passage feared and revered. And yet, Saturn rewards those who endure. His gifts are not easy, but they are real. He governs bones, time, thresholds. If Jupiter expands, Saturn defines. If Venus seduces, Saturn sanctifies. If Mars charges in, Saturn holds the line. As you move into the days ahead, ask yourself, what have I built? What am I willing to refine, even if it takes a lifetime? And when I walk through the forest of time, will I leave a trail of fire or of stone? And so we lower the lantern. The hour is late. The flame burns low. If this episode lit something in you, if you felt seen in these stories, the silence or the shadow, then I invite you to stay close, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, as they say, or write me your dreams, your riddles, your roots. Every word is read. Every dream is sacred. Until next time, keep your feet on the path. Keep your heart in the fire. And remember, there's more beneath the forest than dirt and bone. There's you.